term that would expire December 31st, 2016.
And we will table the nomination. And communications.
Communication this evening from Mary Jane Duty. She's asking that the city consider the removal of a tree at 185 South Lincoln Street.
And we will refer to this Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee. Reports. Before I act on the first report that is before us, I want to bring the council's attention to the letter from the New Hampshire Civil Liberties Union, which you have on your desk. You should all have that in front of you. This letter will be filed in the record in conjunction with the first item. Number one.
Municipal Services Facility and Infrastructure Committee report relative to the consideration of a graffiti ordinance. Under vote of 4 to 0, the Municipal Services Facility and Infrastructure Committee recommends that staff be directed to research the possibility of an enforceable graffiti ordinance and report back to the committee. Signed, James P. Duffy.
Councilor Duffy.
Thanks, Your Honor. I move to attend the committee report.
Second. It's been moved to second. Councilor Duffy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilor Fileault, you know from our last full council meeting, requested that the city council research the possibility of an enforceable graffiti ordinance and report back to the committee. Last week we had a meeting that lasted, I think, a little over 2 hours. Many people spoke, gave many points of view, and it certainly, in light of hearing all that, the committee, I think, rightly voted unanimously to ask city staff to do further research and come back to further the discussion. Again, I want to emphasize, and thanks to Councilor Jones and a number of us, we reminded the folks there that this is a step in researching the possibility of an enforceable graffiti ordinance. I know in the media and some people even at the meeting last week thought we were discussing literally a proposed ordinance, and that is not the case. I just think it's important to repeat that again. And I don't have anything else at this time to say about it, so I would urge full adoption by the City Council.
Any further questions or comments? Councilor Clark.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I guess I'm kind of wondering why we don't take resolution 2010-30 off the table and wrap that around it to discuss. As you remember, Councilor Richards and I put together a proposal to discuss aberrant behavior and such like that that's happened in public spaces. And this seems like this is right up that alley, and I'm kind of wondering why we don't just talk about the whole thing rather than just doing one thing at a time. I don't know, I'm not going to call it an overreaction to ask for an ordinance, but it just seems to me that every time that something comes up on Central Square or Railroad Square or other public spaces, we tend to just jump up and say, okay, we got to fix this, we got to fix that. So I don't know. I guess we'll ask the city attorney what would be the proper way to take that off the table and to include this in that. Is that a possibility? Is that something that's...
Council, I think that would be a question first properly addressed to the mayor for the procedure aspect.
Well, is that currently on more time with the committee? Councilor Duffy.
Your Honor, thank you, Your Honor. If I may speak to that, thank you. Actually, it is on more time. From what we understand, I did request that it be brought off more time, I think about a month or so ago, just to get an update. And we are waiting for certain things to occur, mainly some information to be reported back from the Parks and Recreation Director as to possible changes, literally, in Railroad Square. As far as the aberrant behavior issues that were brought up, because there were a series of communications from Councilor Richards and former Councilor Charles H. Redfern, I did mention that in the beginning of the meeting, because we all know there have been some incidents that have occurred in the square that are not particularly, well, we had to deal with Councilor let me explain it differently. We had to deal with Councilor Fileault's request, which is to research the possibility of an enforceable ordinance. Those things, I think, might be appropriate in a month or so, maybe 2 months when it comes off more time. We're just looking at the issue of graffiti and not aberrant behavior or alleged aberrant behavior or anything else that occurs that the public is concerned about either way. And that's why it's not being wrapped into that. But what Councilor Clark is referring to is not something that the full council is not going to be dealing with, I think, certainly in a few months from now, if not much longer than that. But we have to address this specific concern that Councilor Fileault brought up, which is to literally research, I'm repeating it a lot, we had to repeat it a lot last week, research the possibility of an enforceable graffiti ordinance.
Councilor Jones.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think there's a difference between the resolution that was mentioned and the motion before us here tonight. The resolution is more about downtown, and graffiti is a citywide problem. And I think that's the way the committee should address it, not just the graffiti problems downtown. So I think there is a big difference. And what we're asking for here is when it comes to committee, we want to know what's legal, what's not, what we can do, what we can't do. Can you designate certain areas? Can you talk about content? Can you do that kind of stuff? This is more, we're asking for more, it's more like management 101, exploring the options.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Item number 2.
Planning licenses and development committee report relative to a request to use airport parking areas. On a vote of 4 to 0, the planning licenses and development committee recommends that Atlas Pyrotechnics be granted permission to use city property located at the Dillon Hopkins Airport on August 16, 2014, and on October 11, 2014, for vehicular parking of attendees at 2 pyrotechnic shows to be held at the Cheshire Fairgrounds. Said permission is subject to the customary licensing requirements of the City Council, obtainment of all necessary permits and licenses, and compliance with all laws, and compliance with any recommendations of the city staff. Signed, David C. Richards.
Councilor Richards.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move the independent committee report.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilor Richards.
Thank you. Steve Pelkey, the president of Atlas Pyrotechnics, addressed the committee. As stated, this request is used for the parking lot at the airport for overflow parking during the 2 fireworks events at the Cheshire Fairgrounds. The Airport Advisory Committee has unanimously approved this request. Has approved this request. All city requirements having been met, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee unanimously recommends granting this request.
Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 3.
Planning licenses and development committee report relative to a request to use city property. On a vote of 4 to 0, the planning licenses and development committee recommends the Keene Downtown Group be granted a street fair license to use downtown city rights-of-way for purposes of conducting merchant sidewalk sales, as well as use of city property on Central Square, Railroad Square, and designated parking spaces on Main Street to conduct the Keene Music Festival on Saturday, August 30th, from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. In addition, the applicant is permitted to close off a portion of Railroad Street from Main Street to the westerly entrance of the Love Street parking garage, and a portion of Church Street from Main Street to the entrance of Vision Financial parking lot. This permission is granted subject to the customary licensing requirements of the council, submittal of a signed letter of permission from City Tire for use of their property, compliance with any recommendations of city staff. In addition, the petitioner is granted use of the requested parking spaces free of charge under the provisions of the free parking policy. The petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any city services over and above the amount of city funding allocated in the FY15 community events budget. Signed, David C. Richards.
Councilor Richards.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move the intent of the committee report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilor Richards.
Thank you. Kevin Dremel addressed the committee. This request is for the 14th annual music festival, which I gotta say that's pretty successful, 14 years. I hope everyone can attend. It's a good day downtown. The event will take place on August 30th. All city requirements having been met, the planning license and development committee unanimously recommends granting this request.
Are there any further questions or comments? Councilor Hague.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may, I would just like to add to Councilor Richards' comments that this festival should be commended for continuously bringing in donations to the city, in addition to providing a culturally rich and orderly festival.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Number 4.
Planning Licenses and Development Committee report relative to a request to use city property. On a vote of 4 to 0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends your kitchen store be granted permission to use city property in front of their establishment and 3 designated parking spaces adjacent to the storefront on July 16, 17, 18, and 19 to hold their annual Kitchen Carnival event subject to the following: the customary licensing requirements for council, unimpeded public use of the sidewalk, and of a minimum of 6 feet in width before traveling, obtainment of all necessary licenses and permits in compliance with all laws, payment of a standard daily rental fee for use of metered parking spaces, payment of a $60 fee for electricity access, and compliance with any recommendations of city staff. Signed, David C. Richards.
Councilor Richards.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move the intent of the committee report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilor Richards.
Thank you. This is the request for the 5th annual Kitchen Carnival. The only change from prior years is actually a reduction from 4 to 3 parking spaces. All city requirements having been met, the planning licenses and development committee unanimously recommends granting this request.
Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Something about that side of the room that's in a hurry to vote.